Hey everyone, Julia Rose here. Welcome to my channel. If it's your first time, I'm glad you clicked on this video. If you're a returning viewer, I'm glad you made your way back. I have been meditating on what topic would be best to post for my next video. And I must admit, for every other video I have recorded, I have not been as nervous or felt as much anticipation as I do this one. And maybe that's part of the nature of the transformations I'm in the middle of personally, but it's also due to this message, the contents of this message. I pray that this finds you at exactly the time that you need it. I really do. And I started a bit differently today. They wanted, my guides and the divine guided me to start by pulling out some messages from scriptures and commentary on scriptures. And this message ultimately is about purification. Purification while on the spiritual journey. And maybe you find in your day-to-day life that this is frequently spoken on. Maybe you find that it's not really talked about. And they led me to a few different statements, and we'll read the statements and then we'll get into the tarot to see how this is applying to your life. But it's entirely possible that I could just go on and on. I could just go on and on speaking on the things that they've shown me. So again, I'm just being led in the moment, okay? So the first key, we'll call them keys today. The first key is a verse from Bhagavad Gita, as translated by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, translations and commentaries by him, by his grace. And this is chapter 17, verse 16. And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. I'll say that again. And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. An austerity is a sacrifice with intention, giving up something lower, lesser, to receive something greater, something higher. To receive the highest gift of all, love of the divine, to open one's heart and mind to the possibility of receiving such a gift. We must go through purification. And what is this word, purification? Purification means it's like detoxifying. It's removing what's no longer needed, removing obstacles or falsities, toxins, heavyweight. I was hearing dead weight, but I said heavyweight, so dead weight. Releasing all that no longer aids us in our service to the divine, service to self, service to others. And so it was so beautiful to me to see the way that these two quotes came together. And there were a couple sentences I wanted to read also from the purport to this verse, quotes from Srila Prabhupada himself. The first: to make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. To make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. And what is sense gratification? It's the belief that, well, it's the process of soothing the body, soothing the mind, attempting to satisfy the body with material means. Hence, sense gratification. All of your gross senses, your eating, your smelling, your tasting, your tasting, your smelling, your touching. Oh, you know the senses, I don't need to sit here and list them. So ultimately, satisfying the body will never satisfy the spirit. And I know that's a heavy statement. There is a way to discipline the body and the mind so that the spirit is satisfied. And spiritual satisfaction actually nourishes the body and mind more effectively than we can really fathom until we begin to experience that for ourselves. Have you ever eaten something that was made by someone who was angry? Someone who was under the influence of some sort of substance? Believe it or not, the quality of the food that they made was affected by their state of consciousness. And compare that to something made with love. You can feel in your bones how satisfying it is, whether or not what you're actually eating is complicated or simple. It just doesn't matter, because it's the consciousness, it's the vibration of what it is you are inviting into your temple, your body, that truly impacts you. This is why when we pray over our food, it has a purifying effect. When we offer our food to the divine, to the source of everything, with our sincerest gratitude for being able to sustain ourselves on whatever it is that we have, our hearts become nourished, our spirits feel whole. And that is greater upliftment than any means of material sense gratification. And all that means is just trying to enjoy without God. Trying to please ourselves without care for the divine. That state of, that perception of disconnection only perpetuates itself and takes us deeper and deeper into misery. And so Srila Prabhupada says also in this verse, or in the purport to this verse, to purify one's nature is to become God conscious. To purify one's nature is to become God conscious. Because again, you're coming back to the source of everything. When our hearts are seeking out that connection to the divine, so often there are walls and obstacles, and I'm seeing like an obstacle course in my mind, that there are so many traps and false doors and just things in the way that seem to prevent us from where we're trying to get to, prevent us from going to where we're trying to get to, that prevent us from feeling what we want to feel. And the process of purification is dismantling those, I'm hearing the word contraptions, those mechanisms that guard our heart. Because God is love. To purify one's nature, to purify one's existence, is to become conscious of love. The divine love that exists in everything, in everyone, in all places, at all times. And paradoxically, we are taught here, from the moment we exit the womb, that the more we seek to satisfy our bodies, whether that's through food or entertainment or sex, it's going to satisfy us. But truly, these things, without dovetailing them, without connecting them to the divine quality, they're hollow. They're empty. Like, dare I say, selfish. And that just leads to our minds becoming more and more dissatisfied. And it's so perfect that this verse came out with this need for understanding of what truly it takes to become God conscious. They had me open Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy, who, if you don't know who she is, definitely look her up. My gosh, I'm so overwhelmed and in awe with her and all that she stood for and all that she created. She's the founder of the Christian Science movement. And essentially her faith and understanding of the Bible was to bring, she studied the Bible for years. She was very ill and bedridden for a long time. And she studied the Bible for years, trying to understand its essence. And she concluded so much of exactly what is found in Bhagavad Gita, which is so much aligned to what Jesus's true teachings were. That God is love. Love created everything. Love is the reason we all exist. And everything else that stands in the way of that convinces us that that is untrue, is illusion. So I'll read what they pointed me to today. It's page 546, lines 1 through 8. The false belief that spirit is now submerged in matter, at some future point to be emancipated from it, this belief alone is mortal. Spirit, God, never germinates, but is the same yesterday and today and forever. If mind, God, creates error, that error must exist in the divine mind. And this assumption of error would dethrone the perfection of deity. I'll read that again. The false belief that spirit is now submerged in matter at some future point to be emancipated from it, this belief alone is mortal, fleeting, temporary, therefore disconnected from the truth of divinity, which is eternal, everlasting, ever expanding, and blissful and full of knowledge, eternally expanding. Spirit God never germinates, but it is the same yesterday and today and forever. If mind, or God, creates error, capital M mind, that error must exist in the divine mind, and this assumption of error would dethrone the perfection of deity. Mary Baker Eddy uses this word error synonymously with illusion or false belief. It's something we've been tricked into believing, or tricked ourselves into believing, that truly has no standing under the test of eternity. There are certain beliefs that we hold about the divine, one of which is perfection. If God created error, then that must mean God makes errors. And if God makes errors, God is not perfect. And how can we have an eternal, all-powerful, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, all-loving God that makes mistakes? It just doesn't fit. God himself, God herself says, God is the same. Today, yesterday, now, and forever. And we are all made in God's image and likeness. So how is it? How is it that we could be imperfect? How? And yes, I can hear some of you already saying, but humanity is flawed. Humanity is flawed. Human nature was designed by the divine. Did God purposely cook error into that? Or is that belief in error just a result of our disconnection from truth? These errors are what become purified as we become God conscious, as we become conscious of divine love. Capital L love, unconditional love. And this love is the only thing that honestly satisfies all aspects of self. It is the most healing force, the most purifying force. When we question our self-worth, we forget who we are. And maybe we make mistakes, or maybe we're just here learning. Maybe it's all for our growth. And this habit of needing to satisfy the body is predicated on a belief that we are temporary. Our existence comes to an end. And maybe that all of this is for nothing. Anyone who has had any semblance of a mystical experience understands that there is more to everything than meets the eye. And to take that further, that we have all existed for eternity. Sure, we might be a minute aspect of that eternity, but it's not for nothing. There's this idea, this error, that the material is separate from the spiritual. Well, in truth, God creates all. God created and is the spiritual aspect. God created and is the material aspect. They serve different functions. The material, animated by the spiritual, exists to propel us further on our journey of growth. And purifying one's existence also means to come into greater understanding of how God moves through your life. How everything you are is so perfectly custom tailored to what you are here for, to what you are meant to fulfill in this life. The false belief that there are coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. Everything. And the deeper we sink into the reality of our spiritual nature, the deeper we realize how much everything is connected. Everything. Even the connections between our false beliefs, the illusions we hold, and to the truths that stand behind them, waiting for us to realize them. And this process of purification is fluid. It comes and goes in waves. And it's all moving according to your plan, God's plan for you. Our beliefs shape the world that we live in. So if we believe that human nature is flawed, all we're going to see is flaws. We'll find more and more reasons to pick apart this world that we live in and send ourselves even further into destitution, into states of depression. lack, hate, prejudice. We all serve our role. We all serve the role that God made for us. And these errors, we can, these obstacles, these illusions, we can think of them like gates. If we unlock the gate, on the other side of that veil is truth that brings us into deeper awareness of life and of ourselves and of the divine. Now, I should remind you that not everyone has a desire to pursue a journey like this. It is a difficult path. To change, to grow, to be humbled. To be humbled in the face of the divine. To be humbled in the face of your enemies. And it's so curious that this word enemies comes up right now. Because, well, Julia, if you're saying that we're all made of the same divine essence and that humanity is not flawed but just covered by illusion, how can we have enemies? Well, I should specify and say that the enemy is the illusion. Srila Prabhupada talks often about how the nature of how material nature is designed to test us, is designed to make us really work really work for truth, absolute truth. Giving us temptation and tests that may feel impossible to overcome, to pass. And even then, it's not even that a being is your enemy. It's these illusions. It's these lies. The lies that you hold and the lies that they hold. No being or creature created by the divine is your enemy. It is the lies that they hold onto that dictate their behavior. So it's not that you should just let everyone be your best friend and let everyone into your business. Because that's not practical. The best thing you can do for yourself and for anyone you ever come into contact with is to commit yourself to truth, to devote yourself to learning and unlearning. That is quite literally the most you could do for someone else, because that will shape the way you interact, not just with yourself, the way you treat yourself, but the way you treat others. Others who are on this path and others who choose not to be on this path. And it's hard. It's hard to navigate. And sometimes we make a mess of things. And just know that sometimes God will bring lessons back around to you to make sure that you've perfected them. So if you heal something and then you move on and it comes back to you and you're like, I thought I did this. I thought I finished this. I thought I spoke my truth in this situation or handled this the way that I was meant to, only for it to come back again. It's God giving you another opportunity to embrace deeper authenticity. And what is authenticity? It's to speak the truth and believe what you say. The highest degree of authenticity is to speak absolute truth. Absolute truth being the truth of God, the truth of the divine, and believing what you say. There's real power in that. But not only is illusion repelled by truth, illusion is agitated by truth. So standing in your authenticity, submitting yourself to divine truth, might warrant reactions from illusions held by others that may not make sense. And sometimes we even surprise ourselves, thinking that we could behave differently towards a certain type of interaction, only to come to find that our ego is triggered. And again, this is all for our growth. It's all for our growth and our evolution. And some people might wonder, what is the point? What is the point of growing and growing and growing and changing and evolving and devolving if it just never stops? Why bother if there's no end to it? Spiritual evolution means freedom. It means freedom of the spirit, freedom of the heart. And that is to truly love without conditions, without barriers. And that freedom comes at the price of sacrificing illusion, of dispelling illusion, of overcoming meaningless sense gratification. It's quite literally overcoming meaninglessness. Because without love, things don't have meaning. They don't have a place in our lives, if we don't have some sort of connection or affection for something, whether that's a lust type of attachment, or a truly loving type of attachment, a lustful attachment. Without love, there is no meaning to anything. And I personally can't think of a worse fate than a loveless one. Maybe that makes me a hopeless romantic. But if that allows me to live in delusion of genuine love and care for all of creation, then I don't care what people say about me. Because I've learned to trust how I feel. As have you, as will you continue to, on this journey of coming back to love, coming back into love, falling back into love with the source of everything, with all that exists. It's a cosmic dance. Maybe it looks like a dark storm or a hurricane. But beneath that, what's really happening? How big of a picture, how big of a perspective can you take? There is no wider, no grander perspective than the divine perspective. And the only one that has God's perspective is God. That is absolute truth. That is the highest truth. God's perspective, which is unconditional love. And I know that's a hot take for the travesty we see every day here on this planet. Know that God is the bringer of supreme justice. God keeps record of all. Of all. There is no hiding from the source of everything. We only fall into the belief, the illusion that we are separate, that we are invisible. You are not invisible. It is not possible for you to be invisible. Maybe it's illusion that doesn't want you to see the truth about yourself. Whether that illusion is in others or yourself. You are divine. You are divine. Say it with me. I am divine. And the more you start to believe it, the more the miracles unfold in your life. The greater your trust in the divine, the greater the opportunity for God to move through your life. When we grip onto control so tightly, it's because we believe that there's no one supporting us. There's nothing supporting us. That we are alone, isolated, and separate. And that couldn't be further from the truth. That is what the lies try to convince you of. That satisfaction comes from disconnection. It is so important right now. It's so important always, but right now especially, if you're watching this, you've made it this far into this video, this message, that you are taking proper care of your mind with the media you consume. Use your discernment. With the books you read, the music you listen to, you must be vigilant. Because the war on consciousness has never been as great as it is right now. And sure, that's a lofty statement. But I tell you, in this quality of time under which we exist, the battle for control over our consciousness is great. And the best protection, materially and spiritually, is truth. Absolute truth. And the deeper you submerge your mind, the more you bathe and cleanse your mind in sacred literature, in holy music, in healing frequencies, the more you'll be able to perceive these omissions of truth, these illusions within yourself and within others. And it can be a lot to process. It can be a lot to process. So as you continue on this journey of purification and of reviving your relationship with the divine, I encourage you to be gentle with yourself. To really provide your body and your mind with what you need. With what truly is going to nourish your being and facilitate your highest potential. There's more. I'm being told there's more to this message. And it's not always necessary that when you notice these discrepancies, these illusions, that you call them out immediately. Sometimes you're shown something just to take note of it. Which is why, again, it is so important to use your discernment. Whoa. That's too many cards. Okay. All of this serves to open up your crown chakras and your third eyes. Third eye chakras, you collectively, you individually. Because the goal of control is to keep us operating in our lower nature. But when we've awakened, when we've transcended enough fear to enter into our heart space and our higher chakras, those are our first steps toward freedom. And those operating in the lower chakras, the sacral, the solar plexus, and the root chakra, cannot fully understand how you operate when you are living life from your higher chakras. I'm hearing specifically from your higher heart, which is activated by the cleansing and purification of your heart chakra, your throat, your third eye, and your crown, and coming into harmony with your masculine and feminine natures, your material and spiritual. And things, people throw rocks at things they can't understand. And dogs bark at things they don't understand. First they'll look at it a little funny. And if they decide it's a threat, they'll bark and become vicious. I say that to say to you, stay vigilant. Stay prayered up. And just keep doing you. Because while they may not understand it, your frequency is affecting them. The vibration of truth carries a strong influence and impact onto truth, or onto illusion. And like I said before, truth is your greatest protection, spiritually and materially. That's the message. That's the message. And this last card here. Mending bridges. I heal rifts. I'm a mender. Again, this is also part of the purification process. To heal your relationship with truth. To heal your relationship with differences. To heal your relationship with opposition. Because again, our beliefs dictate how we act. Our beliefs dictate how we act. And with that, I leave you. Much love. I'll see you in the next video.